What is up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the Novablast 4s. Now, I have about 300 miles in these shoes, so I've spent a lot of time in these puppies, and I've been putting them through the freaking ringer. I've been getting ready for my next 50-mile ultramarathon, which is a mixed course. So I've been running on bike paths, on gravel road, on single track trails, and hours on the freaking treadmill. So I have a lot of experience in different terrain, different conditions, different weather in these shoes because, man, once again, I've been beating the shit out of these shoes. Now, we aren't going to get super technical with this review, but it has an 8mm drop. The heel is sitting at 41.5 millimeters, and then your forefoot is at 33.5. So it's a max cushion shoe, neutral support, and it has a new FF Blast Plus Eco midsole, so it's super squishy and it's kind of updated from the Novablast 3s, which is said to be a little bit tamer than the previous version. This is the first Novablast pair of shoes that I have, so I don't have much experience with the other versions. So this is kind of a clean slate review for the Novablast lineup. So let's jump right into the first category, which is fit and feel. Now, typically I only really run in wide toe box shoes or zero toe box shoes because I have these weird fat rectangular feet. If you've seen any of my reviews in the past, you know the biggest problem I have with like traditional shoes or regular shoe companies is I have this big fat weird rectangle foot. I have a skinny little heel and then a big rectangle foot. My wife always makes fun of me that I have the squarest feet that she's ever seen. So yeah, usually I have to kind of stay with the ultras or the topos to actually make my feet feel comfortable. And when I first put on the Novablast 4s, I felt like I was going to have that same issue. But after about 20 to 30 miles in, because, you know, I didn't want to waste money, I just kind of stuck with it. After that 20 mile to 30 mile break-in period, it felt like the shoes in the upper really started to stretch out and conform to my feet. And they feel just as comfortable as my much loved ultras that I always wear, my everyday trainers. The upper is a mixture of a synthetic mesh, so it is pretty thick and durable, but it is stretchy also. So once again, give it a couple miles to be able to stretch out and conform to your foot. Like I can see the side of my foot kind of pushing over the edge, but it's not compressing my toes together where it's giving me a bunch of blisters or a lot of foot pain. This is seriously one of the first like traditional shoe companies shoes that I can actually wear on a daily basis without getting a lot of foot pain or anything like that. And then with my skinny little heel, I always tie my shoes with a runner's knot. So I like to cinch my shoes down really, really tight. The tongue has this gusseted wing tongue that has some padding on it, and it's just enough padding to not get in the way or be too loose where you can feel those laces start cutting into the top of your foot. So that is super comfortable and it feels very locked down and really conformed to my feet. So the only real thing that takes a little bit getting used to, especially if you're coming in from ultra or a little bit more minimalist style shoes, is they do feel pretty big. I mean, you have that 41.5 millimeter stack, so you are a lot higher than most shoes and it feels a little clunky, but I got used to it really quickly. And the little spur out or the little heel spur in the back doesn't get really in the way when you're on the trails. Like it doesn't get caught on roots or rocks. And I wore them on many different types of terrain in my training runs. Once again, they are fairly squishy, and especially if you're a heel striker, you can really feel that heel kind of like squishing and then throwing you forward, but they are actually really responsive, and you get that little push off, that little bounce, that little pop, and they feel really good for everyday use, and you could actually get away with using these for a lot of speed workouts. All right, moving on to usability and performance. Once again, I typically only run in ultras or kind of like minimalist zero drop shoes. So when it comes to performance, I'm usually not used to getting any performance benefit from those shoes. I mean, with most of those shoes in that category, you don't get a very extreme pop, or you don't get like propelled down the trail or propelled down the road that much just because of the nature of zero drop shoes. So when I first put on these shoes, I was very surprised on the actual pop that you get from the Novablast 4s. And I guess it's way dimmer than the Novablast 3s. And I had a lot of fun with these shoes right out of the box. Now, it's not crazy like super shoes where you're freaking getting launched down the trail or you're getting launched down the bike path, but it's a very noticeable pop, and it's a lot squishier than the shoes that I'm actually used to wearing on a day-to-day basis. So I've been using the Novablast 4s for recovery days, everyday use, zone 2 long runs, and even up to VO2 max sessions. And they performed really, really well. I've been using these on pretty much every terrain, every distance, and they have not failed me. I used these during that 10-mile run that I was talking about, or that 10-mile trail race that I was talking about, and I wasn't slipping around. I wasn't, the shoe wasn't getting in the way of the actual run. The only thing that I've kind of seen as like a little quirk with these shoes is they get kind of slippery. I sweat like crazy, so when I was doing like a 22-mile long run on the treadmill, because I was having some problem with pollen, and the pollen in Virginia is ridiculous, side note, but I was sweating my ass off inside on the treadmill, watching Star Wars, and just pouring sweat on that treadmill, and the belt started getting wet, and I was really starting to slip around quite a bit with these shoes. And even on the road, when it was raining pretty hard, I was getting a little bit of slipping. So in really wet conditions with that smooth surface, I was getting a little bit of slipping, but it wasn't so much that I had to like stop the run, or I wasn't like ice skating all around. It's just one of the small little quirks of the shoe. But most people really aren't going to be sweating that much on a treadmill and aren't going to be running in the rain. But other than that, I feel very comfortable with this shoe on pretty much any terrain and any other kind of weather condition. Even in the rain, if you're kind of like on gravel road or on a bike path where there's a little bit more grip, I saw no slipping. It's just on those really smooth surfaces, I got a little bit of slipping. Now, moving on to the last category, which is durability. And this is where the Novablast have really shined for me, because once again, I'm coming from ultra, and the durability on ultra is definitely not the best. I love ultra. Once again, it's like pretty much my everyday running shoe. But after 300 miles, this is what the bottom of the shoe actually looks like. So all the rubber's gone, and it's starting to get into the midsole. You start seeing or at least I start seeing really bad wear on my ultra shoes after 200 miles, and they get absolutely destroyed within 300 miles, and you can start seeing really bad wear. Now, the Novablast 4s, I have about the same amount of miles as the ultras that I just showed. So around 300 to 350 miles, and they have held up way better. The rubber is barely even worn on just one side of the shoe, and it's not even dipping into the midsole at all. I still feel that pop that I get when they came out of the box. Now, it has dampened a little bit, but that might also be that I'm just starting to get used to what it actually feels to be in a regular shoe that actually gives you that pop, or that gives you that little lift off. If it is that dampening feeling, it was right around that 300-mile mark where the shoe started feeling a little flatter than it was. There have been some creases in this giant stack, but that is to be expected, especially because once again, I'm around 180 pounds. But there is no real apparent damage on these shoes. And once again, I have worn these on trails. I got them completely submerged in water, completely saturated with sweat multiple times. And I've ran, 300 to 350 miles with no real big apparent damage or lack of use or lack of pop or responsiveness from the midsole. Maybe I'll go and get another pair of the Novablast 4 so I can compare a new pair with my 300 to 350 mile actual use and see how that responsiveness actually stacks up with a brand new pair. However, overall, I'm very, very impressed with the Novablast 4 in the durability of the shoe. Now, once again, that might just be because I'm used to running in these little glass-made shoe ultras. I still love ultras, but if there's one thing that they need to work on, it's the durability of these freaking shoes, because seriously, I wouldn't even be venturing into other shoes if Ultra just worked on their freaking durability, Ultra. Damn it. So once again, I'm glad that I'm getting a lot more miles from this shoe, and they actually cost a lot less than I'm used to paying. And I'm probably going to get about 2 times the amount of life from these Novablast than the shoes that I'm used to actually wearing. So for durability, I'm going to give these shoes 2 thumbs up. Party time. Very nice shoes. They stink. So if you need a shoe that's kind of a jack of all trades, I would definitely recommend the Novablast 4s, because I've been very impressed with these shoes, and they've been dealing with the punishment that I've been putting them through, just slamming my feet into rocks and slamming my feet on the road and beating the shit out of them on the treadmill. They've been dealing with my bullshit, and I've been very glad that they've been carrying me through my workouts. So if you're looking for a jack of all trade shoes, once again, I would recommend these Novablast 4s, or at least give them a shot. But other than that, remember that this is just gear, it's just shoes. The most important thing is consistency and making sure that you're getting out there and freaking crushing it. That's how we start climbing up that mountain and getting our mission done and becoming average savages. So get out there, chip away, and become an average savage. Let's go, and let's fucking get it.